potato, hot potato, hot potato, hot potato. Oh, come on, give me my. Here we go, live dashboard. And so I can be connected to chat. I'm going to put a few things in here right now because my timers were not working earlier and I need to check. Everything's working okay. Coffee. No. Maybe I need to. Oh, you know what? I put it in as tip. Yeah. Oh, it's didn't put this link. That's great. How special. All right. It's fine. I'll fix it another time. I don't expect tips to come in right away. Hi, everybody. Let's do another cooking stream. Oh, you know what else I remembered? My volume was kind of low last time. Nobody said anything, but I gonna bring that up a bit. So, this is another like basics cooking stream. Back to basics. I realize there are things that people just don't know, and I am asking people I know in my community what they'd like to see. I had an idea about doing potatoes. I mean, you don't get much more basic than that, right? Everyone loves potatoes. Boil them, mash them, stick in a stew. Really? Any of them? Not so much. And I will talk in a little bit about why different potatoes are better for different applications. Some don't work at all. Some can be a disaster. And then you give up, even though you think, oh my God, I can't even cook a potato. What am I doing? Um, we can solve that with just a little bit of information that nobody seems to tell you when you're growing up. Um, I didn't go to culinary school. Again, disclaimer. I learned all this on my own throughout my life. Let me see. So I'm going to keep these streams. I don't know how long the cookbook recipe development ones are going to go when I start them. I'm going to try to keep these usually around an hour. We did 38 minutes last time, which is plenty, where we treated this cutting board with oil, and it's beautiful and ready to go now. Um, but I'm going to get right to making today's recipe, and once it's in the oven doing its thing, I'll talk about why I use different potatoes for different things and show you why. I prepared a demonstration. So this is a russet potato. It's got almost a woody um, skin to it, so you can get those really good crispy skins. I'll explain pro tip later for getting that to happen. And this is what I've chosen, and it's the one I prefer for this application. What I'm making is potato wedges in the oven. Um, Everyone loves wedges, right? You want them nice and fluffy on the inside and crispy on the outside. So we're going to cut into wedges. We quarter like this. And then I want them thinner than that. We've got a little icky brown bit at the end that can go. I forgot to bring my compost bin out here, but that's fine. I'll take care of it later. All right. And then we're going to make these into eighths because, you know, math. You cut the 4 fours in half, you get 8. They don't have to be perfect, but you want them pretty close to the same size. I mean, this is probably the biggest disparity we have, but it still should work out fine. This is so easy. And let me tell you, if you go online looking for recipes for these, people kind of overcomplicate. They're parboiling them, and then, you know, doing all this other stuff to them. And There are sort of reasons for that. When you get potato skins that have that almost like a crust, if they're not battered, which also sometimes restaurants do, um, there's a method where you can boil them a while and the outside gets a little rough and shaggy, um, and that will crisp up a little differently. But this method, this recipe, I got from I think All Recipes. I can post it in my Discord, the basic one, and I just kind of wing it from there because you can make these any flavors you want. A lot of times when I make them, I'll use like cumin and cayenne, or I make Emerald's Bam, the Creole seasoning. You can buy it in the store, but I find if I mix it from scratch, it's much better. And if you're interested, let me know because I do think I might want to do a show where I talk about different seasoning blends and how you can just make them at home with what you have. So basically, you're coating these with oil. You know what I should look at? I should look at. See, the original recipe has like 4 tablespoons of olive oil, but it's for a lot more potatoes. You're basically just putting the coat. It's pretty common sense. You can always add a little. I mean, that's maybe a tablespoon, and get them all coated. You want all sides coated. You don't have to use olive oil for this. You can use regular, grapeseed or just cooking oil, whatever. It's not really relevant. A virgin olive oil will give it a little flavor. You are cooking these at 400 degrees, and it's still not going to cause a problem with olive oil's smoke point being lower than other oils. When you're doing this, do make sure it's like you want the skins coated as well as the open sides of the potato. So yeah, that went plenty long way. Do toss, and they're going to get more tossing in a bit. I just want to make sure they're coated. Okay, seasoning. So oregano, Italian blend seasoning, and like I said, you can use a Cajun season, whatever you want. And I would say probably a good tablespoon, well, half a tablespoon, teaspoon and a half, by the way. A tablespoon is 3 teaspoons, if you don't know. Um, I'm having to crumble this a little. You probably don't have to if you bought your oregano. I grew this and dried it out. Ding! That's for the demonstration in a bit. So, garlic powder. I would not use, that's probably about a teaspoon. It's really forgiving. A lot of this is to taste. I don't stand on recipes very much. Sometimes things turn out much better without. And I would also normally be doing this with my hands, but I don't have a sink here to be washing my hands constantly during stream. Garlic. I would not use fresh garlic for this. Sorry, I was saying, because it'll scorch and burn, and then garlic gets all bitter. So, paprika, people think it doesn't have a flavor. It does. It's also really good for color. That's kind of the primary thing with your potatoes here. You can see just maybe a half a teaspoon. Paprika, smoked paprika and regular paprika are not the same. Smoked paprika is much, much smokier, but even plain paprika has a tiny bit of smokiness to it that lends to stuff besides just the aesthetic of how pretty they're looking already. And I'm going to add a little salt. I'm going to say only about a quarter teaspoon. I would definitely put a lot more of this if I wasn't using cheese. I'm using cheese with this. Parmesan cheese. You can use a fresh grated if you want. The cheap stuff in a jar like this works fine. I'm using a Parmesan Romano blend. Let's say 2-3 tablespoons. Again, super forgiving, not hard, and just mix it up. You're wanting it to coat. If it's too much, don't panic. It'll leave it in the bowl. It'll just not attach. You're just coating your potatoes up. Don't stress about every little um, bit being completely covered. That's not how this works. This is all just for some flavor and aesthetic. So these are about ready to get in the oven. I got my toaster oven here ready to pull some things out. So what I've done is I've pre-baked 3 different kinds of potatoes that I'm going to talk about. 3 different kinds of potatoes. That there's 3 basic kinds, and I'm going to talk about why each one is better for things. Falls off, so it's done. This russet might be a tiny bit underdone, but it'll work. Now, you want to line your cookie sheet for this with either parchment or foil. I love parchment paper. That's another, I came late to the game. Um, Getting any experience with parchment paper, man, it's magical for baking. I love it so much. It is more expensive than, aluminum foil in general, but it really can be a game changer, especially with breads and pastries and things, because stuff does not stick. But I have these handy dandy small foil sheets that my oldest son gave me recently. He had them for another use that he doesn't have anymore. Okay, so you want to put these skin side down on your baking sheet. Just line them up. If you're doing a whole giant cookie sheet, that's fine. Again, that's why it's just flexible. You can see how much seasoning they have on them. You don't want to put them flat potato side down. The skins kind of crisp up and help keep them from sticking. Again, it's not the end of the world if they tip over or anything. So these are going to go into... Oh, hold on. I need to wipe this stuff off my hands. I can never help using my hands. Into a 400-degree oven. And you do want to preheat in this. I normally don't care much about preheating because it's like a waste of gas. You can just check it after the normal time it gives you for the recipe, and if it's not done, or you've taken its temperature and it's not done, give it more time. But this is preheated because I was already making something in it. So here we go. And that's going to be 40 minutes. I'm going to put it slightly under 40 because this is actually a convection oven, and I am doing it at 400. A lot of times, if you don't know, if you have a convection oven, which is an air fryer is a convection oven, my oven itself has a fan in it, so it's convection, but I can turn it on or off. This has an always on convection. You want to go usually around 25 degrees lower than a recipe. If it doesn't account for being a convection oven. Okay. So while that's going, let's talk about potatoes. So, what do I want to do first? First I'll talk about it and then I'll demonstrate. There are 3 basic kinds of potatoes. And let me make sure... Look, play a shell game. So basically, starchy potatoes, which you're talking about. This is in Idaho. I know it looks really, really similar to the russet we just worked with, but see, the russet has a slightly thicker, almost woodier skin, and but other than that, really the same quality in that they're drier and starchy. Like drier on the inside, which makes a difference in how they behave. They kind of, that fluffy puffing up. They're really, really good for mashed potatoes and French fries and wedges like that, because you can get them crisp on the outside and they'll be nice and fluffy on the inside. And What, is there anything I want to say? Oh, you don't want to boil these for a potato salad or something because you'll end up with mashed potato salad. They want to fall apart. They don't stick together. I know it's counterintuitive because of them being starchy. You would think they stick together, but that's not how this works with potatoes. It's about the balance between the moisture and the starch in the potato. So next is waxy potatoes, what they call waxy potatoes. Stuff like a red bliss. Nice, pretty red potato. Um, this is where I had my biggest potato fail, and I started to learn about why it matters which one you use. So I like went to, I don't know, a fancy restaurant, and they had a mash, a mashed potato with smashed potato, sorry, with like roasted garlic in it, and it still had the skins on, which I love. When I do potato salad, I usually use the little bitty ones, but sometimes I use something like a red and I leave the skins on because they're not bitter and the texture isn't so far away from the potato. And I thought, these mashed potatoes are great. I'm next time I make mashed potatoes, I'm just going to use red ones and I'll leave the skins on and we'll mash them up. And I love roasted garlic. That's another big, like, what my toaster oven gets used most for is roasting garlic, um, which is easy to do. I'm sure we'll cover it at some point. So I cut up potatoes and I boiled them, and I did, like you do. I put in some salt and I put in some milk and some butter, and I got out my hand mixer, which is generally I make mashed potatoes. They get nice and creamy or fluffy depending on the level of fat you put in them, and it turned into glue. They were like goop, not goopy, sticky, thick, like gluey, terrible. And I thought I didn't know what happened. I was like, is the potatoes, are they old? Like, what if I just beat them less? Would that work? What did I do? And it turns out it's because these waxy potatoes, as they call them, um, they're dense and they're moister. They're not as dry throughout their flesh like russets and Idahos, which are pretty much interchangeable. And they want to hold their shape. So when you're beating them up, it turns the starch into this gluey thing. Now you can make a smash with a red potato, um, with a waxy potato like this. You can, but you want to use like a hand masher, that kind of manual manipulation where it's left chunks in it and stuff, and you can smash, your flavor into it, but you don't want to whip them per se because you get a very, very unpleasant texture. They're really, really great for roasting though because they like to hold their shape. If you're, cutting into a bunch of little squares, triangles, whatever, and roasting them, or roasting them by cutting them up and putting them under a roast, or if you're gonna stick them in a stew. Great potato for that. You still end up with having potatoes still at the end. And of course, you can peel them for stuff like a stew if you want to. I don't. I think the only thing I really would peel them for is if I'm making something like a pot pie, where I'm still stewing the potato for a long time, but I want it to have its shape uh, when I'm done. And like I mentioned, potato salad, great for that. The last kind I'm going to talk about is kind of all-purpose potatoes. Oh, I should mention, other waxy potatoes are new potatoes. Again, don't want to mash those. And the round, regular, kind of like white column, they have this thin skin, but they're white. And the fingerling ones are generally a white potato that are starchy like that, and you don't want to try and do a mash with them. All-purpose potatoes. They tend to be a little more expensive because they're things like white potato and Yukon Gold, which is this is a yellow potato they call it, but it's basically Yukon Gold. You can see the flesh is, if you can see, hopefully the color is much more yellow than your standard red bliss or white potato, white gold. The gold potatoes are um, kind of an all-purpose because they have medium starch and purple. Um, and you can do a mash with them and you can do a fry with them. They're more versatile, like I said, but they are more sensitive and they don't quite stand up the way that something like a russet does to an excellent mashed potato. Now let me show you. Let me see if I'm missing something here. Medium starch and moisture, so they can get creamy, but they also can hold their shape. Oh, gratins, scallop potatoes. That's really, really good with the regular all-purpose one too. It's got that in between space, and you can use them for mashed potatoes, and they don't fall apart quite the way something like a russet would, which would be ruined. Okay, so let me show you the difference because I baked these, and you can see, or for one thing, like when you bake the red, the skin kind of shrivels. It's not great. Um, for appearances, and it works, but even cutting into it like this, I can feel where it's a little bit of a gummy texture because like it wanted to hold its shape and it just, yeah, trying to open it up, it's, you know, it works, it's edible, but it's a little lumpy and weird, and I think nobody really wants that. I'm gonna cook all these later in a hash because that's versatile enough, I don't care. Second we'll go with, this is yellow, and it's like an all-purpose. So it definitely goes through it better. It doesn't feel as gummy, and it does, come apart a little easier. You probably want a fork. It's a little underdone. But you see it does fluff a little and come apart more easily in a baked potato, and it's not going to have any kind of gumminess to it. Now, hopefully this is cooked enough. I'll talk about the russet slash Idaho stuff. Again, this nice, almost woody, this is where you get potato skins that can get nice and crispy. Um, and if you want to, when you bake them in the oven, or you can even head start and just use the microwave for a couple minutes, take them out and rub them with oil and coat them in salt and put them back in the oven, or if you used your microwave to give it a head start, stick it in the air fryer to finish it, and you get that restaurant style potato, right? Where they bring it out. They often use foil, I think, to get a higher reflective and get it crispy on the outside, but those are the yummy skins you want to eat. Ooh, the fan just made a weird noise in that. So here's your baked russet. Goes through nice and easy, and when you squeeze it, you get that poof, like if it were cooked a little more, all of it would be nice and just fluffy like this. This is what you want to use for the best baked potatoes. And that dryness, so it also takes a lot of flavor when you're topping it. Um, your butter has more surface area to work with, and your sour cream and your chives and all the lovely things. So, yeah, russet's definitely a big difference in how this worked out for trying to make a baked potato. And that's why. It's all about the starch and the moisture. Hmm. Even plain. I mean, who doesn't like potatoes? All right, well, gee, that's like the whole tutorial, right? I didn't cut that one up. I'm gonna wrap these up. No, I'm not. So that was that whole thing, and we have a lot of time left. We have about 25 minutes left before these wedges are done or ready to look at anyway. So what do we want to talk about? Let's see. Oh, so let me tell you about some other plans I have coming up for the stream. My kind friend who gave me this beautiful cutting board to use for the stream also gave me, he's been doing an estate sale. He had a lot of stuff in the house to get rid of, and I think most of it used to be his mother's, and he had a lot of cookbooks, a lot of cookbooks, and he asked if I wanted them, and I looked at some, and I'm like, I mean, I've got a small stash of cookbooks. Most are like kind of nerdy themed ones, right? Because I'm a nerd. I've got the World of Warcraft cookbook and the Avatar cookbook and things like that. And of course, How to Cook Everything, which I almost left out here today to talk about. So let me start there. There's a book by Mark Bittman, a cookbook called How to Cook Everything, that is really how to cook everything. It is very seldom that I figure I want to try to make X that I haven't tried before. I do that all the time, but it's seldom that I open that cookbook and can't find how. Once in a while, with something like really specific, super, to a region or something, I don't find it. But I love his style of writing. He goes has a recipe in there, but then has kind of variations on it. Oh, you can do this with this, and this with this, and this with this, and you can add this. And even I started making bread using that cookbook, and I used to be intimidated by bread. I am not anymore. It's way more forgiving than people think. But he's got, in the same basic bread recipe, stuff like how much wheat flour you can add instead of the white flour in this recipe and it still hold up, which is super handy. So, like when my son Connor moved out, I made sure he got a copy. When Victor moved out, I'm like, I'll get you a copy of this cookbook to take with you. And one of the books my friend Scott gave me today, there was a copy of How to Cook Everything, and I put that in my youngest son's room, and he hasn't moved out yet. A couple years ago, before my dad died, I was talking to him about that book, and I think my sister, because I believe I gave her one too, she took hers over and showed him. And this is a guy, I mean, he just passed at 79 and he had a lot of cookbooks. He loved to cook. And, his wife's always trying to get him to throw things away. And he went through that book and he ended up throwing away a whole lot of cookbooks because, like, everything was in there. And, it was a really neat thing to be able to share with him and him take my word for it. Your parents never even know what you're talking about, but he and I did share. He respected my cooking, like my mom does. It's something, like I said, I'm not a trained chef, but I kind of became the keeper of the recipes for my family. Some years ago, I took all everybody's recipe cards away because they had all the recipe cards from my grandmother and my dad had from his side of the family, and everyone else had the recipe cards, and they'd still call me when they needed to make something. Oh, hey, I'm making the pecan pie. Oh, I'm making the potatoes. Do you have the recipe for the eggplant casserole? Whatever it was. And it's like, you have the recipe cards. Like, sis, they're in your closet. Like, so one time I just started, I took them all. I'm like, give me the recipe cards. And I put them in a digital file so we can also update it. I printed out copies, and that's another thing I give to my sons as they've moved out. I print out all the family recipes and put them in an empty cookbook binder, although those are getting hard to find. If you know where to find those empty cookbook binders, let me know. I'm down to one, and it's not very big, and Victor doesn't have his cookbook yet. And I still need to give one to Fletcher when he moves out as well. Um, but anyway, uh, Scott gave me some cookbooks. Let me let me show you. This is gonna be a little rough a minute for this camera. Okay, some cookbooks. Um, there's some cookbooks, and there's some cookbooks over here. And then, oh no, I can't. Can I get it under? Here we go. Oh no, I think I just my camera deactivated. Hold on. You can see. There's a hole under this dining table. The light's not behaving. I do it upside down. Yeah, I'm sorry, you can't really see that very well. But there are, let me see, one, two, three, four, like five big boxes of under my entire dining room table, plus those, like a gazillion cookbooks of many, many different kinds. Like I said, how to cook everything is in there, but we're keeping it. Um, there's, you know, church cookbooks. I always dig that kind of thing. There's Sriracha cookbook. There's a recipe with a book with recipes from Newfoundland. My husband's from PEI, so if it means anything to you. There's ones by famous chefs like uh, this isn't the right barbecue one. Who's the guy I always watch on Food TV? He does all the uh, barbecue. He's like the master. He has had a few different shows. So I've got probably 100 cookbooks. I'm gonna, I don't know if I'm gonna do office hours while I do it. Maybe I'll do office hours streaming while I do it to show everybody as I put them in a spreadsheet because I told him I don't know if I want those cookbooks. He said, "Well, sell them or something." And then it occurred to me we could do giveaways for all you wonderful folks. I'll have to figure out how I'm going to do it. I would love it if you would sub to my Twitch channel, of course. It would be great to be starting to make a little money back to get ingredients, especially for things like the recipe testing for the cookbook. Um, but I need to have it so that I'm not just shelling out money I don't have to ship these to people. Um, so for various reasons, follows, subs, maybe we'll have some special events, but I'm going to do giveaways is my plan to get these cookbooks out to those of you who like them. We'll have to decide if it's random or maybe people can pick from the spreadsheet or roll, but there's lots of great treasure in here. There are whole sets of Williams Sonoma cookbooks. There are regional ones. There are ones based on specific cuisines or specific ingredients, and uh, there's a lot. Whole baking. There's one here, 500 delicious salads. Okay. Um, some I don't know if are gonna make it. This is funny. I hate to cook. Um, there's a Watkins cookbook. If you're familiar with Watkins products, they, sell spices and vanilla and things. I used to buy their vanilla. It's okay, but they're kind of culty. Um, so it's a really neat old book. The cover's got some damage. Um, but it's got like a list of their products in the back and what goes with each recipes. But some of these are this sort of collectible item, and this has a lot of recipes in a small book, like one, two, three, four, like 4 and 5 per page on a lot of them. A lot of it's going to be baking. Yeah. Sorry, I hadn't looked at it before. Let's see, there's Watkins products for you. This one is from the Junior League of Norfolk, Virginia Beach. Taste of Tidewater. Lots of great stuff to have. I look really forward to sharing these with all of you. Sriracha. I'm curious about the sriracha, aren't you? Starter snacks, soups and stews. Sriracha and spam fried rice. Yeah. When I talk about sriracha, though, I should tell everyone sriracha isn't what it used to be. If you don't know the story, look it up. It's very interesting. I order the farmer that got screwed in the process that made all of our sriracha disappear and then come back because everyone copied it and none of it is as good. Um, does sell directly. You can buy it on Amazon, but two at a time. And so you can get the sriracha you remember now from that farmer if you've been curious. I still got 10 minutes. What are we going to do? I would love if, I've got an ad starting in about 30 seconds. So that'll give me time to think. And you time to, I don't know, go to throne.com/9 of 12 and help me out in continuing this. Get me some of the gadgets I need for this show. Eventually, I'll set up something like marbles for all of us to play when this happens. I don't know if it's going to tell me when the ad is over. Now, don't worry. I'm not going to keep all the best ones for myself, but I just found one called Curing Cayenne and its culinary partners, herbal partners, which I might have to keep because, maybe we'll make hot sauce. Oh, and this has all kinds of herbal remedies. Cool. Oh, should have left I should have left my hot plate out here for other demos. Step away for a second. And we're back with still a little time to kill. I'm sorry for those of you who are not watching live. I don't really know how that shows up in the VOD. I will have to do some research. Sorry, I'm new. So let's show you how to open a bottle of wine, right? While we have a little time. This is, I was taught it was called a captain's knife. I got training at a restaurant I used to work at, sommelier training, but I've had people who actually had other sommelier training and they called it something different. But this is one of the best kind of corkscrews. I also have the kind, you screw in and you bring the flaps down. Hey, one of my cameras disappeared. Here we go. And those are real easy, but they take up a lot of space in your drawer. The kind that's just a corkscrew that you pull the end off for travel and put through, those suck. but this is really simple. It uses leverage. I will warn you, if you carry these uh, traveling, I got really lucky to not lose one of these in a suitcase because of this little bitty knife. They almost didn't let me take it with me. So put it in the packed baggage. So you've got this on the top, and there's a lip, right? And you just hold your thumb and turn your hand around the top, and that takes off your little plastic bit that's covering your cork. So you close that, and here's your lever and your corkscrew. Push the corkscrew, and you're not turning the corkscrew. You're turning the bottle. You see a lot of people, I mean, once you get it in a little ways, you can turn the corkscrew, but turning the bottle is more stable and tends to go more evenly down into, so you don't end up on the side and ripping up your cork. Don't go all the way down. Tilt it up, and then it's got a lip that'll catch on the bottle. And then, yay physics, simple lever. These are, I don't know, my favorite kind. I've used a lot of different kinds. And so it's super compact and super effective. Worth investing in so you don't end up and carrying them in your purse if you travel or wherever, because you end up with those terrible ones they have on the counter at the liquor store. Nobody needs that. So this is an Old Vine Lodi Zinfandel 2023. I haven't tried this yet. It's called the Scarlet Path. I got it at Aldi. People have been raving about their Malbec there, and I like Malbecs, but I really took to Old Vine Lodi Zinfandels some years ago, and then I guess the world caught on and they got expensive. What else can I say about wine? Um, you, no, I'm not going to talk about wine. It's too preferential, right? Like my friend Shane, he likes his red wine cold. And no, because there's so much you can't taste there. Cheers. Can you see my glass? Yes, see my pentacle? I etched this glass. That's another thing I'd like to know if people are interested in. Now that I have this set up, I can theoretically add some crafting streams. I make jewelry, I etch glass, I etch metal. That's all right. It needs to breathe. And yes, that's really a thing. You notice if you drink nice and slow. Um, what else can I talk about quick? I should have brought my baking scraper over here. They have those in dollar stores sometimes now. And that is a tool that, even if you don't bake, is incredibly useful for prep, and I recommend everyone gets. I etched my name on mine, which is also a fun little gift thing um, that you can look for if you know some crafty people. I've put a steel here, and these knives are what I'm going to be using for the stream. I do have other sets of knives. I got really lucky. Somebody did a some kind of scam thing where I got random packages from Amazon not long ago, and of stuff I didn't order, because they're basically trying to show that people do order their stuff. I forget what it's called. Um, but I had a really nice set of like German knives um, for my kitchen, which is great because then I handed down my, kind of favorware I was making do with to my son. So this is all covered in starch from the potatoes right now. But these knives I've had stowed away since my dad gave them to me a couple years ago. And these are forged in fire. This is really heavy. I love the feel of it and the weight of it. This is also a forged in fire. The guy who I believe started that show is actually was part of the Renaissance Festival here in North Carolina, and I did a forging thing where I made a knife at their Dragon Forge not long ago. Um, but my dad, he knew he wasn't long for the world, I think, and he was giving me a lot of things, and these knives are one. And now they'll be primarily, I think, the things I use. I don't really have a reason for other than these two for this cooking stream, unless I start doing something like filleting fish. In which case, I have a fillet knife he gave me that actually has a like a holster for your belt. He was a big hunter fisher guy. Um, this big wooden cabinet here is another gift from him. It is full of things I use to make my well, all my spices and stuff, but stuff to make sausage, which is another thing I will probably do on stream in the future, just to show you all. Man, it's amazing the things you can make at home and much cheaper than you can buy them. That's another reason I thought about getting some other, like, fresh grated Parmesan or getting some Parmesan and grating it for the wedges. And I'm like, I think when possible, um, I prefer the accessibility of what's in the house and what's affordable to get. Um, some things are going to be weird and tricky with the cookbook development because some of them are a little more exotic. I mean, we're cooking with monsters, for goodness sake. Um, but yeah, I do a lot of shopping at Aldi, and that does let me get things that I really like goat cheese and feta and, stuff that is a little more expensive in your regular grocery store, and there's no reason to not get it from places that discount it. TJ Maxx, check back, usually near where they have their pots and pans and things. I got my dishware there, and my dishware is really cool. I have some with like sugar skulls, and I have some that's Nightmare Before Christmas themed. And people are always saying they love and envy my dishware. I should warn people about that. I'm not dressed like this just because it's Halloween. Um, I'm a little spooky tendency in fashion. I've got my prep bowls. I'll probably until I get different ones, but using these for stream, these little cauldrons, I love them with spiders on them. But they also have at TJ Maxx usually a place with spices, capers. I love capers. It's a great little addition if you've ever made a tartar sauce and you just use mayo and relish because that's what you grew up with. Chop it up and throw in some capers, and there is a game changer. There was a recipe that came with my air fryer for cauliflower, where you take a whole head and you cut it two ways, and you drizzle, I think, olive oil and different spices on it, and you put capers on it and cook it in the air fryer. It was so good. Unfortunately, my son Victor, he was the last one who lived here who would eat that with me. So I haven't been making it, but it was like hard to find capers. I live in rural North Carolina, and sometimes gourmet items are a little harder to find. It's been getting better, but um, I find the greatest stuff at TJ Maxx. There's a chipotle seasoning we love, and the stuff there is really like high quality brands that they've just changed their label, and sometimes you get great finds. I can usually get capers there half price what they are in the grocery store. I don't know why they always have capers. I guess it's just a thing. There's a Melinda's hot sauce, a specific one that my Fletcher has trouble finding in the stores. That we went today and he found that ghost pepper Melinda's that he likes. Herbe de Provence, which is a blend I really like to use and keep in the house. I really should do this. I should take a note and do this spice blends episode because um, there are useful things there. Herbe de Provence tends to have lavender in it, which is something, I mean, you can grow, and then the other stuff you might have in the house. but I like to have that in the house, and salt. So I usually use kosher salt, sometimes like a coarse sea salt, um, and I like smoked salt. My first smoked salt experience was having found it in a little grinder, TJ Maxx, like, ooh, I'm making ham soup soon. If my ham isn't salty enough, which happens sometimes when you're just, using the bone and making a bean soup, because beans and peas take a lot of salt, um, this would be perfect as an addition. Oh, the wedges are ready. And I kind of fell in love with it. I went through it really quickly, and it does tend to be expensive in stores. However, I could get whole bags of Himalayan sea salt, like the chunky kind, and I use it to make bath salts. But I also, mix with Epsom salt and stuff. But I put it in a uh, metal aluminum tray and smoked it in my smoker. And now I have a big jar and I just refill my grinder with smoked salt and have it on hand. And the Himalayan salt at Aldi is so much cheaper than anywhere else for some reason. Okay, let's check our wedges. Oh my gosh, I'm excited. Gotta do the thing. Oh, some of them fell over. Yep, they're done. Oh, goodness. Okay, let me pull these out. Let me get a trivet. I don't want to burn my cutting board after conditioning it so nicely last show. Yeah, see? More spooky. Big lots. Okay, so here are our wedges. Super, super hot. Hotter on the inside. How it goes. You can see the nice, crispy, crunchy. Actually, what do? You can hear that. They're crisped up on the outside. See, this one fell over, and so it's a little less crisp on the other side. But crisp up nice, and then let me cut into one so you can see what I mean about the texture with the russet. Oops. Ooh, that's hot. Look. Fluffy, tender, lovely, crunch on the outside, ready for dipping. And you can do as many as you want. And like I said, don't worry about a recipe. It's coating things, it's to taste. You don't have to do the cheese. You can make them spicy instead of herby, depending on what you're making them with. Like I would definitely use a Cajun seasoning if I was serving these with something barbecued. But if I'm making a roast chicken or some Italian, tabletop or oven top meal like a chicken piccata, I mean, I'd probably serve rice with that. But oregano goes with a surprising amount of things too. There's actually oregano in my hot sauce or in my barbecue sauce recipe. Do 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 do. Well, I hope that was helpful, Sean. I hope it was helpful to everyone with talking about the different kinds of potatoes and why you use different ones for different applications. I know I had to learn because I did it wrong, which is the hard way. None of us really want to do. Don't try to mash your red bliss. Um, and I asked if there's one recipe, and I think this worked out well for timing, um, that you would like to do. My friend Sean, who's on Part-Time Gamers with me, if you want to check out that show, it's a podcast, but he also streams when we record at Cyrenex. Twitch channel, but the Part-Time Gamers is the podcast. And he said, I would like to know how to just make some tasty potato wedges. And yeah, now we have that. I want your wife's review when you decide to make dinner or at least help with dinner some night. So, as let me see if my nope, that's not gonna work. Feel free to join my Discord. I'll eventually have all these bots working, so I won't have to have such an awkward time in the stream where you can make suggestions, comments, and criticism. Hopefully, kind ones, or you'll get the hammer. And any questions you might have, and any suggestions for different shows, things you'd like to see. I will have channels in there where I'll post base recipes. Um, and my recipes if I actually use one for a stream. Um, Next time, oh, I did have one question there I'll go ahead and address now before we sign off. You can also tip me at ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/9 of 12, and find my throne to help with specific needs for the stream. My friend Shave Maddox, who's also a streamer on Twitch, he plays a lot of games, asked about when you should put oil or butter in a pan, like when you need to lubricate. And um, I think I want to wait until I do a demonstration. I mean, you almost always want to. Nonstick makes it so you don't have to with a lot of foods. And you don't need to if like you're doing a steak, you're doing something that's already fatty. General rule of thumb with most things is you do want to warm your pan before you put your oils in. Um, as I mentioned at the beginning of this stream, olive oil has a low smoke point, so if you're doing something on high heat, like you're blackening or you're stir frying, you do not want to use olive oil. Just like you don't want to use olive oil to season your cast iron, because it polymerizes earlier and thicker and unevenly compared to other seasoning methods. But you can mix oil and butter if you want to get a little butter flavor, but use a healthier oil in a dish. Um, there are ways to get around even cooking an egg uh, in a regular pan by rubbing a potato on it to cook an egg, but you're always better with just a little bit of butter. It's not going to kill you, and spray oil is an option. I used spray oil yesterday actually to make croutons. It was a really good way to do that without saturating them fully because I've got some French onion soup that needs a topping. So anyway, thanks for joining me. Thanks for watching. I look forward to cooking with you soon.